I really want to thank both Lily and the group this morning, Mark and Lily and Terrence. I want to thank them because I just find qualitative research to be quite an undertaking, a task, and I think you can even get a sense of the richness of what was discussed. These questions down here, some questions down here. Thank you for answering them, but I wasn't here to answer. I had to answer them. And the richness of the information that comes out of these studies, even just in a sort of impromptu way today, you can see how people are really invested in both their communities, in their lives, in their livelihoods, and around human security issues. I asked Clarence a little bit about human security frameworks, because those are things that we kind of look at in particular around conflict, that certainly can be used in disaster as well. So I think it's a task. I find it easier to do quantitative research. So I give all of you a lot of credit. I looked up from where we talked about yesterday a bit, and we'll get to JS and talk about where it fits in. Let me start by picking up, we talked about qualitative and quantitative yesterday, and then I want to focus on mixed methodologies. Because I find this it really is the best of both worlds. In terms of helping us understand the why and how. I tend to use quantitative quite a bit with qualitative sort of supporting it. We can talk about it a little bit, but it's synergistic either way. And I want to give a great example of a gender-based violence study, I think it's a great example, of gender-based violence study that we did a few years back, and it's illustrated a bit. But it is systematic, right? So these are specifically designed to complement each other, to be synergistic, and to have the common themes either quantified and explained. So that's, in a nutshell, that's really what it is. There's many ways to do this, and I don't want to focus on just one methodology. There are many ways to do this, but it's very helpful usually to have people who are versed in both to work together. Usually, as I would say, that's been my experience anyway. But we're gonna hopefully get some nuanced results out of this, and that's the point. So there's I don't want to dwell on this slide, but I have to say that typically most mixed methods sort of fall in here. You do a quantitative study first, and in the back of your mind, you're kind of wondering, why am I seeing what I'm seeing, right? It's a number. And it may give you a frequency, and it may give you a magnitude, but it doesn't explain why you're getting that much in this. So usually there's a sequential, I've often done this kind of sequentially, or you start with a qualitative study first, the example I give you will be for that, where you get a sense of where you want to go with your quantitative study. So one supports the other. Or you can embed it. In other words, you can have a survey tool where you ask quantitative questions, and then at some point you ask an open-ended question right, to it. It may not be a big narrative, and it won't be quite like you described yesterday, where you have themes you want to develop, but at least you'll have some open-ended questions. So that's an example of an embedded one. And or you can do sort of back and forth, and this is often used in community-based research. So you'll see that often. I don't think there's all that many limitations, to tell you the truth. I mean, we've already kind of talked about the advantages, for sure. I will say that there's a bit of complexity, right, in analyzing mixed methods. You know, like I said, often you want to maybe have a team of researchers to do this with you. It's a bit more labor intensive, so on. Okay, so it enhances both. That's the point. It gives some insight into complex research questions. In 2009, we were asked by the NGO, International Medical Corps, to look at a population that had really kind of fallen off the radar screen, and I'll explain in a second, around gender-based violence issues. It was, the population was in Lororo tribe, which in Central African Republic during a lot of the turmoil, largely Muslim population. There would have been an exchange of power within the government, CAR. Rebel groups tend to be Christian, And when a Muslim president sort of came to power, many of these rebel groups were disenfranchised, demilitarized, and so ended up roaming the countryside, essentially as bandits. They're called Huguenots in French. And they perceived the Aurora tribe as being very wealthy. These are pastoralists, had large numbers of head of cattle, and so they were targeted. The men were killed typically, and the women were tortured. So they were fled to what was a very pastoral area. And this part into northeastern Chad, which is also that part of Chad, Cameroon, in this Dijon district here, which is quite rural. UNHCR wasn't even there. Okay, we talked about the role of UNHCR a bit. In fact, the only really international NGO that was there was International Medical Board. And so the issues around gender-based violence in particular at the hands of the Huguenots were salient. So they had a pretty aggressive women's health program and human security program. And so we were asked to sort of look at this in a little bit more detail, mostly around its effectiveness and what they could do to improve. So we had to figure out exactly, this is a quantitative measure, right? What is the prevalence of sexual violence? Is the program working that they currently had? Who's at risk, right? And it could be, I think it was a great question to ask about men, because really, there's not much in the literature in conflict or post-disaster around sexual violence in many ways. It's probably not as prevalent, we probably all agree to that, but it's still not talked about much at all. Was it refugees only? How are the refugees assimilating into the community in Cameroon? By the way, they were more rural in Cameroon as well, but mostly Christian. So interesting. So a big difference in religion between the two. What were the risk factors for sexual violence? What types? Where did they occur in response? So you can see there's a little bit of qualitative nature to these questions. Can we prevent it? So we really wanted to go to the community, both individuals and communities, and I'll show you how we set this up. We again looked at human security and health as part of this, but we wanted to get around some of the cultural understanding of what was sexual violence. So I'll show you a little bit of that. So we went in June of 2009 for about 8 days, which is pretty short to do a qualitative study. But I'll tell you about the questions we asked in a second. We did focus groups and key informative interviews, and then it set up this cluster sample. We were talking about that yesterday, because we didn't have a population list to draw from, of roughly 600 women, okay? And that was from a 40 by 15 cluster. So there's 40 clusters with 15 female, primarily heads of household, but when I say heads of household, I'm talking about somewhat of a polygamous society, so sort of the most senior wife, if you will. And those are the questions that we're asking about, and I'll go into a little bit more detail. We focused a lot on these issues, how refugees are integrated in society, and how they were building their livelihoods, how security felt. So these are the focus groups. So we really wanted to know, and I appreciate the gentleman's question at the end about men. We included refugee men and Cameroonian men as well as focus groups, because we want to get a sense of how they view this, what sexual violence was in their community, as well as Cameroonian teenage boys as well. So these are all separate obviously groups that, of course, refugee women and Cameroonian women and so on. Pardon me? I haven't done much better since yesterday. And then we included, obviously, religious leaders, community leaders in this as well, both from the refugee community and from the Cameroonian community. So I'm going to give you a few, this is typical, right, of all the research, some of the common themes that are out there. You can read these, but you can see these are refugee statements from women, running away from the city out of fear from the rebel groups. We burned our houses, killed our husbands, we had to watch until they died. So you can see the level of trauma that was coming out of it. My husband was hung in front of me, I had to watch. His child was killed, probably in public. I had to run away. When I returned to my 4 other children, were killed. Never had. So gunfire gives me problems. My 17-year-old boy fled at the same time I did. I haven't seen him since. So it was really disruption of families. My cousin was killed. The rebels would get a padlock, tied him up, so that they would die there. They were gang raped. So we've got another example. Members of families killed in front of each other. The things I saw in CAR, I don't believe I'll ever see again. We are thankful to God for the Cameroon villagers to be now living. So there was a really sense that this was, a move, a permanent move for the refugees, and they were being integrated into society. They were a very rural society. There's a few more. This is more around gender-based violence issues. Now, some of these comments are for men, right? This is how they were characterizing women that they knew had been raped, whether they'd been raped in CAR or in Cameroon. Women seen as worthless, and the perpetrator also was sort of seen as being stigmatized in society. If a raped woman is worthless and must be put away, divorced, that was a term for divorced. Conrad handed the man is given a fine, whipped. Oops. If the woman is held by force, there's no justice against her. She's abandoned by her husband. There was, by the way, a real lack of the women obviously trusting the judicial system in Cameroon. She becomes a free woman, leaves her kids with her husband. She needs to go live elsewhere. So, abandonment, no role marriage woman, woman is raped, she suffers. But this is also interesting because there was a real sense in the community that early marriage was a good thing. It's not that usually you see that, I suppose. But when we probed into this a little bit more, a lot of the community felt that if girls married off early, right, they were less of a burden in the household, financial burden in the household, that they would be less likely to get HIV if they married early. And that there was a sort of security as part of that. And so this happened at a very early age, so around 12, 13, 14 years old. Okay. For us, it was important for us to understand, obviously, the culture. Coming into this, I actually didn't go and ask these questions. I designed the study. There was a BIARI study, but my fellow is now an associate professor at USC, led this in the field. Obviously, we had to figure out what wife could ask these questions, so that was more cultural. So we couldn't really ask about men and boys, and so I think that's a big question. This is a household, if you will. So this came out of the quantitative study. I want to show you some how these work together. The red dots are females, the blue are males. The question was about school attendance by gender. And what do you notice here? Well, right, about age 12, 13, the attendance of girls in school drops off tremendously, right? The boys still stay about around 60 to 80%, even around 60% as they get older. So there's a tendency for boys to finish school and girls not to. Now, why does this make sense in terms of what we just saw, right? Remember, girls are seen as very early. In fact, when we probed this to the focus groups, they said things like, well, if a girl stays in school, she's more likely to get herself in trouble, or to get pregnant, or to get HIV. So again, this is sort of seen as dropping out of school and very early was sort of a security thing. Now, it was interesting, I'll make a side comment to this. We actually published part of this data. We looked at if girls stayed in school and they learned math, they tended to be less victims of gender-based violence, which is sort of interesting. They tended to have livelihoods and work. Makes sense. And they tended to be seen as leaders in the community. Between Cameroon and refugee women, girls, so it's about the same. This is the age of first marriage. You can see those numbers or those curves are about the same. Again, this is quantitative data. This is a prevalence of sexual violence. Now, we we talked about rape and sexual violence as being non-consensual. And this is where it got to be pretty tricky, because in the men's groups, we learned that it was a man's right to essentially rape his wife. It could be non-consensual. And this was true in both minority and refugee communities. And so getting past this with IMC at the women's program was challenging, because this is seen as part of the culture. So this is lifetime sexual violence for any woman. And we can break it down by host and refugee. Host on the left, meaning Cameroonian women, refugees on the right. Now, again, you look at this and you say, well, why is that? Well, we kind of already know that refugee women have been exposed to Beirut and sexual violence in CAR, right? So when we put this a little bit more, it's interesting, because refugee women would tend to say, yeah, they had been raped, even though that was a stigmatizing thing, if the perpetrator had been a soldier, right? It was more acceptable. So I think, we had to ask that question to see why it was different. The refugee women were more likely to talk if they had been a soldier. We went back a year later, so between June of 2009 and March of 2010, when we looked at this, IMC had actually created a much more robust program of looking at why it was. And the refugee women tended to say that, yeah, soldiers had been involved, but a lot of them had been raped within Cameroonian society as well. So that was a way to refocus the IMC program on that. So Adam's asking me to move on fairly quickly. Let me just cut through these. They're fairly self-explanatory. Let me talk 2 minutes. There are times when, and I'm just going to introduce these as methods, there are times when you're going to find a population that's really, really hard to study. And you'll see this in the literature. I'm not going to belabor them. There's a couple things. We talked about convenience sampling the other day. I want to give you also these two network sampling examples. Respondent-driven sampling, you'll see often in the literature how to get to populations that are hard to reach. And then also, I want to just mention these very quickly, the sisterhood and the neighborhood method. Those are similar to the kinship partner networks that was described this morning to you. So the idea of network sampling, where you find people in the community who can answer questions that you want, and then build on networks. Are you familiar with this? Okay. I won't belabor this, except to say that snowball sampling typically is not representative necessarily. Mainly because we can't control for the size of the network so well. So if you have a bigger network than I have, which are very not going to buy, you're not, right? So the results of this are skewed towards population, less towards mine. So there's a lot of bias that can happen with that. It's useful information often, and these would be, this could be sex workers, drug users, in many societies, men who sex with men. Again, lots of examples of some underground populations who don't want to be documented workers, and there's a lot of them. So networks are prone to biases. I'll leave that for you there. Respondent-driven sampling is a type of network sampling where we control those networks as researchers. So you can only recruit 3 people, I can only recruit 3 people, you can only recruit 3 people, right? So we try to control those so we can add some statistical inference to those networks. Okay, and it works similar. When you recruit people, those people recruit people, those people recruit people. You tell them each you can only recruit 2 or 3, as long as it stays the same, from the community into the sample. And it looks like this often. And about the time you get to your 6th or 7th wave, you get to that point of saturation that we talked about yesterday, very similar qualitative analysis. Okay? All right. So you'll see this in the literature a lot. It's often done in gender-based violence as well. You'll see that in the literature. I have a colleague looking at this now with children born of rape in a conflict setting, right now in Eastern Congo. Different networks obviously will get bigger as time goes on, and so that's what they sort of look like. Again, hard to reach populations, and so on. Last thing I want to mention is Delphi methodology. You select a lot of key informants, and you go around each time and you keep asking them questions in a circle as the topic gets narrower and narrower and narrower and narrower. Again, not very representative, but sometimes very helpful if you're trying to figure out what's going on in the community. Sisterhood method, this came out of studying maternal mortality, and this is women who can speak for other women, essentially, and it's all women of reproductive age, typically. They'll ask about the deaths of sisters from the same mother, or maybe extended relatives. And again, it kind of gives you a sense of what happens within a network. And then last is neighborhood method, a little bit like kinship. Same thing. I do a random selection of households. I ask those households about what happened to you and what happened to your immediate 3 or 4 neighbors. And I get a sense of somewhat representative anyway, if I do it that way. So that's a quantitative methodology with some representation. And I ask what happens to your nearest neighbor. And usually this is asking about things like deaths, violence, and so on. So I'll leave it there at that. Let's switch over to Jess. Any questions on anybody? Okay. But this is examples of methods that you often see, particularly conflict-related literature, and trying to get at difficult populations. Okay? Sorry, that was very fast. Yeah, Jazz. Jazz. Keep it up, Jazz. Well. All right. Totally different conversation now. A little bit more of my wheelhouse. Okay. I'm a big believer in JS, and I'll explain what JS is in a second for those of you who don't use it. Mainly because everything happens in time and place. And for us as epidemiologists, we haven't always considered geography a variable. Right? We are who we are a lot, largely because where we come from, not just our parents, but the place that we came from, right? So there's temporal and spatial understanding to populations. And so I'm a big believer in it. And I've tried to learn more, as I told you, recently. Now, some people aren't that understanding of it. You see these generals looking at these and saying these maps are old, so pay no attention to the borders. So they do so at their peril, right? Because in reality, cartography, mapping, right, and geographic thinking are cool. All right, this happens to be from the CEO of one of the big vendors of spatial analytic software, ArcGIS. But anyway, in public health, we've used GIS for a while, and it's particularly in the domain of environmental health and infectious diseases. So I know a lot of you aren't infectious disease folks, but I think you'll appreciate this. It's a little hard to see. This is Southern California. This was after the earthquake in 1994. Now I know that goes a ways back. I actually was a resident at the time in my training. This is part of Los Angeles that is fairly densely populated with low-lying houses. And this is where the epicenter of that earthquake took place. Now in Southern California, in particular, there is a fungal disease called coccidioidomycosis. Don't try to spell it. Don't even ask me to spell it. All right. I don't think that would be very well. But anyway, what's that? What is it? Fungal. Labor term. San Joaquin Valley fever. San Joaquin Valley fever. San Joaquin Valley is a little farther north than this, but basically what happens, it's largely a pulmonary infection, is if the spores of fungi are released, people inhale it, and about 6 weeks later they end up with what looks like a fungus ball in their lung. It's a type of pneumonia. Some of them can get pretty sick. And now that I'm in this audience, I just realized when you look at the people who get really sick in the California population, it tends to be Filipino women, interestingly enough. I don't know why that is. Please don't let that discourage you from coming to this other talk. All right. So here's where all the cases show up about 6 weeks later after the earthquake. So the earthquake happens, the earth is upset, right? And the spores come out, right? And 6 weeks later, we see all these cases. This is from the CDC, by the way, this map. It's an old map, right? Here's where the epicenter of the earthquake occurs, but it's all in these, these other sort of mountainous areas, these mountain valley areas here, where we see the cases 6 weeks later. Can anyone tell me what direction the wind was blowing for about, a few weeks after the, right, that way, yeah. In fact, here were all the aftershocks. Sorry, all these little red dots. After the earthquake. So we had the epicenter here, and then all these aftershocks took place along fault lines up here. And all the spores were released, and of course this is where you see the cases. So kind of cool, All right. We think very inductively when we see things like that. Okay? These are pattern recognition things that we all do. It's all wired into our human brains. And we map it against previous mapping. These parentheses. Map it in terms of our experience. Right? Anybody seen this map ever? Even non-public health people?